Hello, English learners. I am Emma, your host for today. If you are new here, I would like to tell you that we create helpful English learning videos regularly on our channel to help you improve your listening, speaking, and communication skills step by step. In today's episode, we are focusing on an important skill for B1 and B2 level English learners: understanding real American English. If you are at an intermediate level and you already know many English words and grammar rules, but still find it difficult to understand native speakers in real conversations, this lesson is especially for you. In this video, you will learn how Americans actually speak in everyday life, how words connect together, how common expressions sound in natural conversations, and how you can train your ears to understand faster and more confidently. Many B1 and B2 learners experience the same problem. They can understand English when reading a book or listening to slow learning materials, but when they hear real conversations, movies, podcasts, or native speakers talking naturally, everything seems too fast and unclear. The reason is that real English includes connected speech, reduced sounds, informal phrases, and expressions that are rarely explained in traditional lessons. Today, we will explore everyday American English conversations and break down the way native speakers communicate in real-life situations. You will learn useful phrases, natural sentence patterns, listening strategies, and practical examples that will help you catch real English more easily. Whether you are having conversations with friends, communicating at work, traveling, shopping, making appointments, or handling daily situations, understanding real American English will help you become a more confident and fluent speaker. By the end of this lesson, you will have better listening skills and a clearer understanding of how English is actually used by native speakers. Before we start the lesson, make sure to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon if you want more useful English learning episodes like this. Your support helps us create more lessons to help you improve your English every day. So, get comfortable, listen carefully, and let's begin our journey to understand real American English. When you begin learning English at the intermediate level, one of the biggest challenges is not always learning new words or studying more grammar. Many B1 and B2 learners already have a strong foundation. They know thousands of words, they understand sentence structures, and they can communicate in many situations. However, when they listen to real American English conversations, they often feel surprised because the English they hear sounds completely different from the English they studied. You may hear a native speaker say something simple like, "What are you going to do?" But it may sound more like, "What are you gonna do?" You may hear, "Did you eat yet?" and it sounds like, "Jeet yet." You may hear, "I don't know," and it sounds like, "I don't know." At first, these changes can feel confusing, but this is actually a normal part of natural spoken English. Native speakers are not using different English. They are using the same English in a faster, more connected, and more relaxed way. The goal of today's lesson is to help you understand that natural English, real conversations are not always slow and perfectly pronounced, like a language learning recording. In everyday life, people connect sounds, shorten words, use common expressions, and speak with a natural rhythm. Once you understand these patterns, listening becomes much easier, and you will feel more comfortable communicating with native speakers. Let's start with one important idea. Understanding real English begins with training your ears, not only your eyes. Many learners spend years reading English, writing English, and studying vocabulary lists, but they do not spend enough time listening to how English actually sounds. Reading teaches you what words look like. Listening teaches you what words feel like when people use them naturally. For example, when you read the sentence, "I want to go to the store," It looks very clear. Every word has its own space. But in a natural conversation, a native speaker may say it quickly, "I want to go to the store." The words connect together, and some sounds become weaker. If you are only expecting the textbook version, you may think the speaker said something completely different. This is why many intermediate learners say, "I understand English when I read, but I don't understand English when people speak." The problem is not that you do not know enough English. The problem is that your brain is still expecting every word to be pronounced separately. Real English listening requires your brain to recognize groups of sounds instead of individual words. Let's practice with some common examples. Listen carefully and notice the difference between formal English and natural American English. A person might say, "I am going to call him later." In everyday conversation, you may hear, "I'm gonna call him later." The phrase "going to" often becomes "gonna" when people speak casually. This does not mean you should always write "gonna" in formal writing. It means you should recognize it when you hear it. Another example is, "I have to finish this today." Many Americans say, "I have to finish this today." The words become connected, and the sound changes. If you are waiting to hear every single word clearly, you may miss the meaning. But if you recognize the pattern, your brain quickly understands the message. Now, let's practice your listening awareness. Imagine you hear someone say, "I gotta leave soon." At first, it may sound unfamiliar, but you probably already know the meaning. Gotta means have got to or have to, so the person means, "I have to leave soon." Native speakers use these shortened forms every day, especially in friendly conversations. Another common phrase is wanna. You will hear this very often. "Do you want to come with us?" can become, "Do you want to come with us?" "I want to learn English" can become, "I want to learn English." Again, this is not a new grammar rule. It is simply the natural way many people speak. As a B1 or B2 learner, your goal is not only to produce perfect sentences, your goal is also to understand people when they speak naturally. Communication is a two-way process. You need to express your ideas, but you also need to understand the ideas of others. Now, let's look at everyday conversations. Imagine Emma is talking with a friend after work. The friend says, "Hey, do you want to grab some coffee?" If you know only textbook English, you may focus on the word grab and wonder why someone is grabbing coffee. But in American English, grab some coffee simply means get some coffee or go and have some coffee. This is a great example of why vocabulary in real life is different from vocabulary in a dictionary. A word can have a basic meaning, but native speakers often use it in common expressions. Learning these expressions helps you understand conversations faster. Here are some everyday phrases you will hear often. "Hang on a second" means wait a moment. "Give me a minute" means please wait for a short time. "I'm just kidding" means I'm joking. "Sounds good" means that is a good idea. "I'm not sure" means I don't know exactly. These phrases appear constantly in real conversations. Let's practice understanding these expressions. If someone says, "Hey, can you help me with this?" and the other person answers, "Sure, give me a minute." What does it mean? It does not mean they are giving you a minute as a physical object. It means they need a short amount of time before helping. If someone says, "We can meet at 6, sounds good?" and you answer, "Sounds good," you are saying that you agree with the plan. This simple phrase is very common in American conversations. Now, another important part of real American English is connected speech. Connected speech means that words are not always separated when people talk. They flow together. Think about music. When you listen to a song, you do not hear every note as a completely separate piece. The sounds connect to create a rhythm. Spoken English works in a similar way. For example, the sentence, "What did you do?" is often pronounced quickly. Many speakers connect the sounds, and it may sound like, "What did you do?" The sentence, "Can you help me?" may sound like, "Can you help me?" The sentence, "Did you see it?" may sound like, "Did you see it?" These changes are not mistakes. They are natural speaking patterns. In fact, native speakers often do not even notice that they are changing sounds. They simply speak naturally. The more you listen to real conversations, the more your brain becomes familiar with these patterns. At first, your brain may need extra time to understand, but with practice, recognition becomes automatic. Now, let's do a small listening exercise. I will give you a natural sentence, and then we will think about the meaning. The sentence is, "I'm gonna head home now." The first important phrase is gonna, which means going to. The second phrase is head home. In this sentence, head home means go home. The speaker is not talking about their head, they are talking about their direction. So the complete meaning is, I am going to go home now. Here is another one. I gotta run. I'll talk to you later. The phrase, I gotta run, does not always mean the person is physically running. In everyday conversation, it usually means, I need to leave now. Maybe they have another appointment. Maybe they are busy. Or maybe they simply need to go. These small expressions are everywhere in American English. When you understand them, conversations become much clearer. One mistake many learners make is trying to understand every single word. They hear one unfamiliar word and immediately stop listening. But in real conversations, you do not need to understand every word to understand the message. Native speakers also sometimes miss words, but they use the situation, tone, and context to understand. For example, if someone says, "Could you pass me the," and you do not hear the last word, you can still understand the meaning if you are sitting at a dinner table and someone is reaching towards something. Context helps your brain complete the information. The same thing happens in English conversations. Your goal is not to catch every sound perfectly. Your goal is to understand the main idea and follow the conversation. As you continue improving your English listening skills, remember that patience is important. Your ears need training, just like your speaking muscles need training. Every time you listen to natural English, your brain becomes better at recognizing real patterns. A useful habit is to listen to the same short conversation several times. The first time, focus only on the general meaning. The second time, notice the phrases. The third time, repeat the sentences and try to copy the rhythm. This method helps your brain connect the sounds with the meaning. Now, let's practice with a short conversation. Emma says, "Hey, are you free this weekend?" A friend says, "I'm not sure yet. I might go visit my family." Emma says, "That sounds nice. Let me know when you decide." In this conversation, notice the phrase, "I'm not sure yet." This is a very natural response when someone does not have a final decision. Notice, "Let me know." This means, "Tell me later," or "Give me the information when you know." These are simple sentences, but they are extremely common in real American conversations. As an English learner, collecting these natural phrases is one of the fastest ways to improve your listening and speaking. Instead of memorizing isolated words, learn complete expressions. Your brain remembers phrases more easily because they are connected to real situations and real meanings. One of the best ways to understand real American English is to become familiar with the small words and phrases that native speakers use all the time. These words may seem simple, but they carry a lot of meaning in conversations. Words like actually, pretty, kind of, really, just, and probably appear constantly in everyday speech. Understanding these words will help you follow conversations more naturally. Let's take the word just as an example. Many learners know that just can mean a moment ago, but in real conversations, it has many different uses. A person might say, "I'm just looking," when they are shopping. This means they are only looking, and they do not need help yet. Someone might say, "I'm just tired today." This means they are simply tired. Someone might say, "I just wanted to ask you something." This makes the request sound softer and more polite. Native speakers use these small words because they make conversations feel more natural. They add emotion, politeness, and connection. If you ignore these words, you may still understand the basic meaning, but you might miss the feeling behind the sentence. Another very common expression is kind of. In everyday American English, people often use it when they want to make their statement less direct. For example, someone might say, "I'm kind of tired." They are saying they are a little tired, but they may not want to sound too strong. Someone might say, "That movie was kind of interesting." This does not mean the movie was exactly interesting. It means the person has a mixed opinion. You may also hear people say, "sort of," which has a similar meaning. For example, "I sort of understand what you mean." This means, I understand a little, but maybe not completely. These expressions are very useful because real conversations are not only about information. They are also about feelings, opinions, and relationships. Native speakers often soften their language because they want to sound friendly and comfortable. Now, let's talk about another important part of listening: contractions. Contractions are shortened forms of words, and they are everywhere in spoken English. You already know common examples like I'm, you're, he's, we're, and they're. But in real conversations, contractions become even more common. For example, instead of saying, "I would like to," people often say, "I'd like to." Instead of saying, "I have been working," people often say, "I've been working." Instead of saying, "I will let you know," people often say, "I'll let you know." These shorter forms are not only faster, they are also part of the natural rhythm of English. When you listen to native speakers, you should expect to hear contractions frequently. Let's practice with some examples. The sentence, "I will call you tomorrow," often becomes, "I'll call you tomorrow." The sentence, "I have already finished my work," often becomes, "I've already finished my work." The sentence, "She has been waiting for an hour," often becomes, "She's been waiting for an hour." When you hear these contractions again and again, they will start feeling normal. Now, let's look at another challenge for B1 and B2 learners: reduced sounds. In natural speech, some words become weaker because they are not the most important words in the sentence. For example, listen to this sentence: "I can do it." In a textbook, you may pronounce every word strongly, but in natural speech, the word can is often weak. It may sound closer to "I can do it," with a very soft sound. The important words are usually do and it. Native speakers naturally emphasize important information and reduce less important words. This creates the rhythm of English. Here is another example. "I was going to tell you." In casual conversation, this may sound like "I was gonna tell you." The phrase "going to" changes because it is not the main information. The speaker is focusing on the message, not each individual sound. This is why listening practice is so important. Your ears need to learn the rhythm of English, not only the vocabulary. Let's practice with a short conversation. Emma says, "Hey, what are you doing after work?" The friend says, "I'm probably gonna go home and relax." Emma says, "That sounds like a good idea. You've had a busy week." The friend says, "Yeah, I've been pretty tired lately." Now, let's notice the natural expressions. "I'm probably gonna go home" means I am likely going to go home. I've had a busy week means my week has been busy. I've been pretty tired lately means recently I have been very or quite tired. These expressions are common because people often talk about their plans, feelings, and daily activities. Now, imagine you are listening to two Americans having a conversation. They may not say complete sentences every time. They may leave out information because the situation is already clear. For example, want some coffee? A textbook version might be, would you like some coffee? But in daily life, people often shorten sentences. They say what feels natural in the moment. Another example, coming with us? The full sentence is, are you coming with us? Another example, need any help? The full sentence is, do you need any help? This kind of shortened question is very common. It does not mean the speaker is being careless. It is simply a natural communication style. As a B1 or B2 learner, you should train yourself to recognize these shorter forms. When you hear, need any help, your brain should immediately understand the meaning, instead of searching for the missing words. Now, let's talk about pronunciation patterns that can make American English difficult to understand. One common sound change happens with the letter T. In American English, the T sound in the middle of words often becomes a softer sound that is sometimes called a flap T. For example, the word water may sound like water. The word better may sound like better. The word city may sound like city. This can be confusing because you learned the word with a clear T sound. But when Americans speak naturally, this sound often changes. Let's practice recognizing these words. I need some water. A native speaker may say it quickly, and the T sound may become softer. That was a better idea. The word better may not sound like the word you studied. I live in the city. The middle sound may be different from what you expect. The important thing is not to copy every pronunciation immediately. First, train your listening. Your first goal is understanding. Your speaking will improve naturally as your listening becomes stronger. Another important skill is understanding informal greetings and responses. Many learners know, how are you? And, I am fine, thank you. But everyday American conversations often use different expressions. People may say, how's it going? How have you been? What's up? How are things? These are friendly ways to ask about someone's life. The responses can also be different. Pretty good, not bad, can't complain, doing well, I've been better. These expressions show emotion and attitude. For example, if someone says, can't complain, they usually mean things are okay. They are not saying they have nothing to complain about literally. It is simply a common expression meaning, my situation is fine. If someone says, I've been better, they usually mean they are having a difficult time or they are not feeling great. Understanding these expressions helps you connect with real conversations instead of only understanding formal English. Now, let's practice a longer conversation. Emma says, hey, how's it going? Friend says, pretty good. I've just been busy with work lately. Emma says, yeah, I know what you mean. Things have been pretty crazy recently. Friend says, hopefully things will slow down soon. Emma says, yeah, hopefully. Notice how natural this conversation feels. Nobody is using complicated vocabulary, but there are many useful expressions. I've just been busy shows a recent situation. I know what you mean shows understanding and connection. Things have been pretty crazy means life has been very busy or difficult. Hopefully expresses a positive wish for the future. These are the kinds of phrases you will hear again and again in American conversations. A powerful listening strategy is to stop trying to translate everything into your first language. When you hear English, try to connect the sounds directly to the meaning. Translation takes time. and real conversations move quickly. For example, when you hear, "That makes sense," do not first translate each word. Train your brain to immediately understand the idea, "I understand. That is logical." When you hear, "No worries," understand the feeling, "It's okay. There is no problem." When you hear, "Take your time," understand the message, "Do not hurry." This direct connection between English and meaning is what helps fluent speakers understand quickly. You can build this skill through daily practice. Listen to short conversations, repeat useful phrases, and pay attention to how words connect. Do not worry if you do not understand everything at first. Every time you listen, your brain is collecting patterns. Real American English is not something mysterious. It is simply English spoken naturally. The more you expose yourself to it, the more familiar it becomes. Another important step in understanding real American English is learning how people express ideas in conversations. Native speakers do not always say exactly what they mean in a direct way. They often use expressions, short responses, and conversational phrases that carry a deeper meaning. When you understand these patterns, you will feel much more comfortable listening to everyday English. For example, someone might say, "I'm thinking about it." A learner may understand the individual words, but the real meaning depends on the situation. Usually, it means the person has not made a decision yet. They are considering an idea, but they are not ready to say yes or no. Someone might say, "I'll see what I can do." This is another very common expression. It does not always mean the person will definitely do something. It means they will try. But they are not making a promise. These small differences are important, because real communication is not only about grammar. It is about understanding intention. Native speakers use tone, expressions, and context to communicate their feelings. Let's look at another common phrase. "That works for me." You may hear this when people are making plans. Person 1 says, "How about meeting at 7?" Person 2 says, "That works for me." The meaning is, 7 o'clock is okay for me. I agree with that plan. A textbook response might be, 7 o'clock is convenient for me. But in everyday American English, people usually choose shorter and more natural expressions. Another phrase you will hear often is, "I'm good." This phrase can be confusing, because the word good usually describes quality. But in conversations, "I'm good" can have different meanings. If someone offers you something, and you say, "No, thanks, I'm good," it means you do not need anything. If someone asks, "Do you need any help?" and you say, "I'm good," it means you are okay, and you do not need assistance. If someone asks, "How are you?" and you say, "I'm good," it means you are doing well. The meaning changes depending on the situation. This is why listening to complete conversations is more useful than memorizing single words. Words become clearer when you understand how people use them. Now, let's talk about another challenge that many B1 and B2 learners face: speed. Many learners believe that native speakers talk too fast. Sometimes this is true, but the main reason conversations feel fast is not only speed. It is because native speakers connect sounds together, reduce words, and use familiar patterns. Imagine you are listening to a song in a language you do not know. At first, it sounds like one long sound. But after hearing the song many times, you start recognizing separate words and phrases. The speed did not change. Your brain simply became better at recognizing the sounds. The same thing happens with English. When you listen to real American conversations regularly, your brain starts creating a map of common sounds. You begin to recognize phrases automatically. For example, at first, the sentence, "What are you up to?" may sound confusing, but after practice, you understand that it means, "What are you doing?" or "What are your plans?" This phrase is very common in casual conversations. A friend might ask, "Hey, what are you up to this weekend?" You might answer, "I'm just relaxing at home," or "I'm meeting some friends," or "I'm not sure yet." These simple conversations happen every day. Another phrase is, "How come?" Many learners know why, but they hear Americans say, "How come?" and they are unsure about the meaning. "How come you're late?" means, "Why are you late?" "How come you didn't call me?" means, "Why didn't you call me?" This expression is very common in informal conversations. Now, let's practice recognizing natural American questions. Instead of hearing, "Are you going to join us?" you may hear, "Are you going to join us?" Instead of, "What are you doing?" you may hear, "What are you doing?" Spoken quickly, almost like, "What are you doing?" Instead of, "Did you want to order something?" you may hear, "Did you want to order something?" Your job as a listener is not to separate every sound. Your job is to recognize the pattern and understand the message. Let's practice with a conversation at a restaurant. A customer says, "Hey, are you guys ready to order?" A friend says, "Yeah, I think so. What are you gonna get?" Another friend says, "I'm probably gonna get the chicken sandwich." The first friend says, "That sounds good. I might get the same thing." Now, let's look at some natural expressions from this conversation. "Are you guys ready?" is a very common phrase in American English. The word guys can be used casually when talking to a group of people, including men and women. "What are you gonna get?" means, "What are you going to order?" "I might get the same thing" means, "Maybe I will order the same food." Notice how the conversation is simple, but it includes many real-life patterns. Another important listening skill is recognizing filler words. Native speakers often use words like well, you know, and like while they are thinking. For example, "Well, I'm not really sure. I mean, it depends. You know, I was thinking about that." These words do not always add information. They help speakers organize their thoughts and make conversations flow naturally. Many learners worry when they hear these words because they think they are missing important vocabulary, but usually, these are just conversation signals. Let's look at the phrase, "you know." Someone might say, "It was a difficult week, you know?" The speaker is not asking if you know something. They are using "you know" to create connection. It is similar to saying, "I think you understand what I mean." Another example, "I was, really surprised." Here, "like" does not mean similar to. It is being used as a casual speaking habit. Understanding these habits will make real conversations much easier. Now, let's talk about listening to emotions. In American English, the tone of voice often changes the meaning of words. For example, someone says, "Really?" The meaning can be different depending on the voice. "Really" with excitement can mean, "That is great news." "Really" with surprise can mean, "I cannot believe that." "Really" with doubt can mean, "Are you sure?" When you listen to English, do not focus only on the words. Pay attention to the emotion and the situation. The same sentence can communicate different feelings. This is another reason why movies, interviews, podcasts, and conversations are useful learning materials. They help you hear real emotion, not just vocabulary. Now, let's practice a short listening exercise. Imagine you hear someone say, "I didn't really mean that." The meaning is not always that they did not say something. Usually, it means they are explaining that their intention was different. For example, friend 1 says, "You were angry with me yesterday." Friend 2 says, "No, I didn't really mean that. I was just tired." The person is explaining that their behavior was not because they were angry. Another example, "I didn't catch that." This is a very common phrase. It means, I did not hear or understand what you said. If someone speaks too quietly, you can say, sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you say it again? This sounds natural and polite. Another useful phrase is, could you say that one more time? This is often better than simply saying, what? In everyday conversations, polite listening phrases help you communicate more confidently. Now, let's practice some common responses. Someone says, I got a new job. You can respond, that's great. Congratulations. That's awesome. Someone says, I'm moving next month. You can respond, really? That's exciting. Where are you moving? Someone says, I've been really busy lately. You can respond, I know what you mean. Same here. Hopefully things calm down soon. These short responses keep conversations going. Many learners focus so much on making perfect sentences that they forget the importance of responding naturally. Conversations are not only about speaking, they are about connecting with another person. When you understand common responses, you can participate more comfortably. Another useful strategy for improving your listening is shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it while copying the speaker's rhythm, speed, and pronunciation. For example, listen to, I'm gonna grab some coffee before work. Repeat, I'm gonna grab some coffee before work. Do not only repeat the words, copy the way the sentence flows. This exercise trains your mouth and your ears at the same time. You can start with short sentences and slowly move to longer conversations. Remember, the goal is not to sound exactly like a native speaker overnight. The goal is to become comfortable with natural English. Every small improvement matters. Every conversation you understand is progress. As you continue training your ears to understand real American English, another important area to focus on is everyday conversation patterns. Native speakers often follow certain patterns when they begin, continue, and finish conversations. When you become familiar with these patterns, you do not have to understand every single word, because your brain can predict what is coming next. This is one of the biggest secrets to improving listening comprehension. Fluent listeners are not only hearing sounds, they are using experience, context, and common patterns to understand meaning quickly. For example, imagine someone says, Hey, I was wondering if... When you hear this beginning, you can already expect that the person is about to make a request or ask a question. I was wondering if you could help me. I was wondering if you had any time this week. I was wondering if you wanted to join us. The phrase, I was wondering if, is very common because it sounds polite and friendly. A learner may understand each word separately, but recognizing the whole phrase makes listening much easier. Another common conversation pattern is starting with, I was just. You might hear, I was just calling to ask about something. I was just checking if everything was okay. I was just thinking about that. The word just makes the sentence softer. It shows that the person is not trying to sound demanding. Now, let's practice understanding these phrases in real conversations. Emma says, Hi, I was wondering if you could send me that file when you have time. The other person says, Sure, I'll send it later today. The important phrase here is, when you have time. It means the person is not demanding immediate action. They are giving the other person flexibility. This type of polite language is extremely common in American workplaces and daily conversations. Another important skill is understanding casual answers. Native speakers often do not answer questions with complete sentences. For example, question, Did you enjoy the movie? A learner may expect, Yes, I enjoyed the movie very much. But a natural answer could be, Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, I liked it. Not bad. It was okay. These answers are shorter, but they are completely natural. Another example. Question. Are you busy tomorrow? Possible answers. Kind of. A little. Not really. Probably. These short answers are common because people usually understand the context. When you listen to native conversations, pay attention to these small responses. They appear everywhere. Let's look at another area that affects listening. American pronunciation of common phrases. Some phrases are spoken so often that they almost become one sound. For example, did you often sounds like didja. Could you often sounds like coulda. Would you often sounds like woulda. Don't you often sounds like don'tcha. These changes happen naturally because English speakers connect sounds together. Listen to these examples. Could you help me? In natural speech, could you help me? Would you like some coffee? In natural speech, would you like some coffee? Did you see that? In natural speech, did you see that? At first, these may sound unusual, but after repeated exposure, your brain begins to recognize them immediately. Another common challenge is understanding numbers, dates, and time expressions. These appear frequently in everyday conversations, but they can be difficult when spoken quickly. For example, I'll meet you at 7:30. A native speaker may say it quickly, I'll meet you at 7:30. The words connect together. Another example, I'll be there in about 15 minutes. In natural speech, about may become very soft, about 15 minutes. The listener needs to recognize the overall sound, not focus on each individual word. Let's practice a short conversation about making plans. Emma says, "What time should we meet tomorrow?" Friend says, "How about around 6?" Emma says, "Yeah, that works for me." Friend says, "Great, I'll see you then." Notice the phrase, how about. This is used when suggesting an idea. How about Friday? How about going later? How about we try a different restaurant? This phrase is simple, but it is one of the most common ways Americans make suggestions. Now, let's talk about another important listening skill, recognizing meaning through keywords. When native speakers talk quickly, you may not catch every word. That is okay. Instead, focus on the words that carry the main meaning. For example, I was thinking maybe we could go to that new place downtown because I heard it has really good food. Even if you miss some words, you may catch thinking, go, new place, downtown, good food. These keywords help you understand the main idea. Many learners make the mistake of stopping when they miss one word. They become frustrated and lose the rest of the conversation. Instead, keep listening. The next sentence often gives you more information. This is exactly how native speakers listen too. They do not panic when they miss something. They continue and use the information around them. Now, let's practice a situation from daily life. Emma says, "Hey, do you know any good places to eat around here?" Friend says, "Actually, yeah, there's a small restaurant near my office. The food is really good, and it's not too expensive." Emma says, "That sounds perfect. I'll check it out." Now, let's look at some useful expressions. Do you know any good places? Is a common way to ask for recommendations. Actually, yeah, is a very natural response. It means, yes, I do have an answer. Check it out means try it or look at it. These expressions appear constantly in American conversations. Another phrase you should understand is, by the way. This phrase is used when someone wants to add another piece of information. For example, I'll send you the report tomorrow. By the way, did you hear about the meeting? The speaker changes the topic slightly. Another example, that restaurant was great. By the way, thanks for recommending it. When you hear by the way, your brain should recognize that a new idea is coming. Now, Let's talk about conversations between friends. These conversations are often the most difficult for learners because friends use more informal language. Friends may use, "Hey, what's going on? Nothing much. Same old, not a lot. Just hanging out." These expressions are very common. Nothing much means nothing special is happening. Same old means everything is normal and unchanged. Just hanging out, too, means relaxing or spending time casually. For example, Emma says, "What are you doing this weekend?" Friend says, "Not much. I'm just hanging out with some friends." Emma says, "Sounds fun." This is a simple conversation, but these phrases are extremely useful. Now, let's practice another important skill: understanding when people change their pronunciation because of emotion. When people are excited, surprised, angry, or happy, their pronunciation can become stronger or faster. For example, "No way." This can mean different things. With excitement, "No way, that's amazing." With surprise, "No way, did that really happen?" With disbelief, "No way, I don't believe you." The words are the same, but the emotion changes the meaning. As a listener, train yourself to hear the emotion behind the words. Real English is not just a collection of sounds. It is communication between people. Another powerful technique is listening to English every day, even for a short time. Many learners wait until they have a lot of free time, but consistency is more important than long study sessions. 10 minutes of focused listening every day can create a big improvement over time. You can listen while walking, traveling, exercising, or doing simple activities. The goal is to make English a regular part of your daily life. When you listen, do not always choose easy materials. Sometimes challenge yourself with natural conversations. Your brain needs exposure to real English speed. At first, you may understand only part of what you hear. That is normal. With repeated listening, the same phrases become familiar. A conversation that sounds impossible today may become easy after a few weeks of practice. Now, let's do another listening practice. Imagine you hear, "Hey, I'm running a little late. Can we push it back?" The phrase "running late" means being behind schedule. The phrase "push it back" means move something to a later time. So the person means, "I am late. Can we change the time to later?" These expressions are common in real life. Another example, "Sorry, something came up." This means an unexpected problem or event happened. For example, "I can't make it tonight. Something came up." A person has a reason, but they may not explain the details. Understanding these everyday expressions will make conversations much easier. The more you learn real phrases, the less you depend on translating every word. Slowly, English begins to feel more natural. Another powerful way to understand real American English is to learn how native speakers organize their thoughts while speaking. In conversations, people do not always speak in perfectly planned sentences. They often start a sentence, change their mind, add extra information, or correct themselves while they are talking. This is completely normal. For example, someone might say, "I was thinking we could maybe go to the..." Actually, you know what? Let's just stay home tonight. A learner who expects perfect sentences may feel confused, but this kind of self-correction happens all the time in natural conversations. People think and speak at the same time. You may hear phrases like, "Actually, wait. I mean, what I'm trying to say is..." Let me explain. These phrases help speakers organize their thoughts. When you hear "I mean," pay attention, because the speaker is often explaining their real meaning or changing what they said. For example, "That restaurant was okay. I mean, the food was good, but the service was slow." The speaker is adding more detail and explaining their opinion. Another example, I don't want to go. I mean, I'm just too tired today. The person is explaining the reason behind their first statement. These conversation signals are very useful because they help you follow the direction of a conversation. Now, let's talk about another important listening skill: understanding questions that do not sound like textbook questions. In English classes, you often learn questions like, "Where are you going? What are you doing? What do you want?" These are correct, but in real conversations, Americans often make them shorter or more casual. For example, "Where are you headed?" This means, "Where are you going?" "What have you been up to?" This means, "What have you been doing recently?" "Got any plans?" This means, "Do you have any plans?" "Need anything?" This means, "Do you need anything?" These shorter questions are very common in daily conversations. Let's practice understanding them. Someone says, "Hey, got any plans for tonight?" The meaning is, "Do you have any plans for tonight?" A natural answer could be, "Not really. I'm probably just gonna relax at home." Notice the phrase, "not really." This does not mean completely no. It means there are no important plans. Another common phrase is, "for now." For example, "I'm staying here for now." This means, "I am staying here at this time, but maybe things will change later." "I'm good for now." This means, "I do not need anything at this moment." These small expressions are very common in conversations, and understanding them helps you follow native speakers more easily. Now, let's look at another important part of American English: informal verbs. Many everyday conversations use simple verbs with different meanings. For example, the verb pick up. You probably know the basic meaning of picking something up from the ground, but in conversations, it has many meanings. "I'll pick you up at 7. This means, "I will come and get you by car or another vehicle." "I need to pick up some groceries." This means, "I need to buy some groceries." "I picked up a few new words from that podcast." This means, "I learned a few new words." The same verb can have different meanings, depending on the situation. Another example is figure out. This is extremely common in American English. "I'll figure it out." This means, "I will find the answer or solution." "I'm trying to figure out how this works." This means, "I am trying to understand how it works." Native speakers use these expressions constantly, so learning them will improve both your listening and speaking. Now, let's practice a conversation using these expressions. Emma says, "Do you know how to fix this problem?" Friend says, "Not yet, but I'll figure it out." Emma says, "Okay, let me know if you need help." Friend says, "Thanks, I appreciate it." In this conversation, figure it out means finding a solution. Let me know means tell me later. I appreciate it is a polite way to say thank you. These phrases are simple, but they make your English sound much more natural. Now, another challenge for B1 and B2 learners is understanding jokes, humor, and casual comments. Native speakers often use humor in normal conversations, and sometimes the meaning is not completely literal. For example, someone might say, "Great, just what I needed." Depending on the situation and tone, this could be positive or negative. If someone receives good news, it can mean, "That is exactly what I wanted." But if something bad happens, it can be sarcastic. "This is another problem I did not want." The words alone are not enough. You need to understand the situation and emotion. Another example, "Lucky me." This can be genuine or sarcastic. If someone wins a prize, "Lucky me" means, "I am fortunate." If someone gets extra work, "Lucky me" may mean, "I am not actually lucky. I am joking." Understanding tone is a major part of understanding real English. This is why listening practice should include real conversations, not only vocabulary exercises. Now, let's discuss another useful strategy: predicting meaning. When you listen to a conversation, your brain should constantly make predictions. For example, if you hear, "I'm sorry, but I won't be able to," your brain can predict that the person is about to explain a problem or refuse something politely. "I won't be able to come." "I won't be able to finish it today." "I won't be able to help this time." This prediction skill helps you understand faster. Another example: would you mind? When you hear this phrase, you can expect a polite request. "Would you mind opening the window?" "Would you mind waiting for a minute?" "Would you mind sending that again?" These patterns appear again and again. The more familiar you become with them, the easier listening becomes. Now, let's practice with a workplace conversation, because many B1 and B2 learners need English for professional situations. Emma says, "Hey, do you have a minute?" Coworker says, "Sure, what's up?" Emma says, "I was wondering if you could help me with this report." Coworker says, "Yeah, no problem. Let me take a look." Emma says, "Thanks, I really appreciate it." Now, notice the natural expressions. "Do you have a minute?" means, "Are you available for a short conversation?" "What's up?" means, "What is happening?" Or, "How can I help?" "I was wondering if you could" is a polite request. "Let me take a look" means, "Let me examine it." These phrases are common, not only at work, but also in everyday situations. Now, let's practice another conversation. Emma says, "Hey, are you still coming tonight?" Friend says, "Yeah, I think so. I might be a little late though." Emma says, "No worries, just let me know." Friend says, "Okay, I'll text you when I leave." This short conversation contains several important expressions. "I think so" means, "I believe yes, but I am not completely certain." "I might be a little late" means, "There is a possibility I will arrive late." "No worries" means, "It is okay." "There is no problem." "I'll text you when I leave" means, "I will send you a message after I go." These are phrases you will hear every day. Now, one of the best exercises for improving your understanding of American English is active listening. Active listening means you do not just hear the words, you interact with the language. When you listen to a conversation, ask yourself, what is the main idea? What expressions do I recognize? What words sound connected? What emotions does the speaker have? Why did the speaker choose those words? This type of listening trains your brain to become faster. Another useful exercise is listening and repeating small chunks. Do not always repeat long sentences. Start with short, natural phrases. For example, "Sounds good." "I'll let you know." "That makes sense." "I'm not sure." "No problem." "I appreciate it." "I'll take care of it." These phrases are powerful because they appear frequently in real conversations. Practice saying them naturally. Pay attention to your rhythm and pronunciation. Remember, fluent speakers do not create every sentence word by word. They use familiar language patterns. The more patterns you learn, the easier speaking and listening become. Now, let's practice a few more everyday phrases. If someone says, "Hang in there," it means, "Stay strong, keep going, do not give up." If someone says, "Take care," it means, "Stay safe, I hope you are well." If someone says, "Catch you later," it means, "See you later." If someone says, "I'm on my way," it means, "I am traveling to the place now." These phrases may sound strange when translated directly, but they are very natural in American English. Your goal is to learn the meaning behind the phrase, not translate each individual word. As you reach a higher level of English listening, you will notice that understanding real American English is not only about recognizing sounds, it is also about understanding culture, communication style, and the way people express themselves in everyday life. Language is connected to the way people think, react, and interact with each other. For example, Americans often use friendly expressions to create a comfortable conversation. They may not always say exactly what they need in a direct way. Instead, they often use softer expressions. Someone may say, "I was hoping you could help me." This is a polite way to ask for help. Someone may say, "I was thinking maybe we could try something different." This is a softer way to suggest a new idea. Someone may say, "I'm not sure that's the best option." This may mean they disagree, but they are expressing their opinion politely. Understanding these communication patterns will help you understand not only the words, but also the intention behind them. Now, let's practice some common situations where these expressions appear. Imagine a conversation between two coworkers. Emma says, "Hey, do you have any updates on the project?" Coworker says, "Yeah, I've made some progress, but I still have a few things to finish." Emma says, "No problem. Just keep me posted." The phrase "keep me posted" is very common in American English. It means, continue giving me updates. Another person might say, "I'll get back to you." This means, I will contact you later with more information. For example, "Let me check the details, and I'll get back to you tomorrow." These phrases are very common in professional conversations. Now, let's focus on another important listening challenge: understanding when words disappear. In natural speech, some sounds are not clearly pronounced. Ein because speakers move quickly from one word to another. For example, next day may sound almost like next day. First time may sound like first time. Last week may sound like last week. Native speakers do not usually notice these changes because they are used to them, but learners need time to train their ears. Do not worry if these sounds feel difficult at first. Every language has natural pronunciation patterns. The important thing is exposure and practice. Let's do a listening exercise. Imagine someone says, "I should have told you earlier." The phrase should have means should have. The full meaning is, I should have told you earlier. Another example, you could have asked me. This means, you could have asked me. Another example, I would have helped you. This means, I would have helped you. These shortened forms are extremely common in conversations. You may not always hear the full words, but once your brain recognizes these patterns, listening becomes much easier. Now, let's talk about one of the most effective ways to improve: learning through conversations, instead of isolated sentences. When you learn a word by itself, you may remember the definition, but forget how to use it. When you learn a phrase inside a conversation, you understand the meaning, emotion, and situation. For example, learning the word busy is useful, but learning these phrases is even better. I've been really busy lately. I'm a little busy right now. It's been a busy week. These phrases are ready to use in real conversations. The same idea applies to listening. When you hear complete expressions repeatedly, your brain begins to recognize them automatically. Let's practice a conversation about daily routines. Emma says, "How has your week been?" Friend says, "Pretty good. I've just been trying to stay organized." Emma says, "That's always a challenge." Friend says, "Yeah, but I'm getting better at managing my time." Emma says, "That's great. Small changes can make a big difference." Now, notice these natural expressions. "How has your week been?" is a common way to ask about someone's recent experiences. "I've just been trying to" is used when talking about a recent effort. "That's always a challenge" means something is difficult but common. "I'm getting better at" means improvement is happening. These patterns are useful because they allow you to talk about your own life naturally. Another important part of understanding American English is becoming comfortable with repetition. Native speakers repeat ideas in different ways during conversations. For example, I was exhausted yesterday. I mean, I was completely tired after work. The second sentence explains the first idea, or, it was expensive. Actually, it was more expensive than I expected. The speaker adds more information. When listening, do not think every sentence introduces a completely new idea. Often, people repeat and explain their thoughts. Now, let's practice understanding a longer conversation. Emma says, "Have you made any plans for your vacation yet?" Friend says, "Not really. I'm still trying to figure out where I want to go." Emma says, "That's exciting. There are so many places to choose from." Friend says, "I know. That's actually the difficult part." Emma says, "Well, whatever you decide, I'm sure you'll have a great time." Now, let's examine the expressions, "not really." Shows that the answer is no or uncertain. "I'm still trying to figure out" means the person is still thinking and searching for an answer. "That's actually the difficult part" means the speaker is explaining the main challenge. "Whatever you decide" means any choice you make. These phrases are very common in natural conversations. Now, let's discuss a very important habit for advanced listening improvement: listening without subtitles first. Many learners always use subtitles, and subtitles can be helpful. They allow you to connect sounds with written words. However, if you always depend on subtitles, your ears may not develop enough. Try this method. First, listen without subtitles and focus on the general meaning. Second, listen again and check what you missed. Third, listen one more time and repeat important phrases. This process trains your brain to become independent. Remember, the goal is not to understand every word immediately. The goal is to gradually improve your ability to understand natural speech. Another useful exercise is keeping a personal phrase collection. Whenever you hear a phrase that appears often, write it down. For example, "I'm looking forward to it." That makes sense. "I'll keep you updated." "Let me think about it." "I didn't mean to." "I'm used to it." These phrases are much more valuable than memorizing random vocabulary because they are connected to real communication. Now, let's practice some final listening examples. Someone says, "Sorry, I didn't get a chance to call you." The meaning is, "I wanted to call you, but I was too busy or something prevented me." Someone says, "I'll take care of it." The meaning is, "I will handle the situation." Someone says, "Don't worry about it." The meaning is, "It is okay. It is not a problem." Someone says, "I'll figure something out." The meaning is, "I will find a solution." These expressions are simple, but they are powerful because they appear constantly in everyday American English. As a B1 or B2 English learner, you are at an exciting stage. You already have the foundation. Now, your focus is moving from knowing English to understanding and using English naturally. Real American English may feel difficult at first because it is connected, fast, and full of expressions, but every conversation you listen to is training your brain. Every phrase you recognize is progress. Every time you understand a little more than before, you are building stronger listening skills. Remember that fluency does not come from one lesson or one day of practice. It comes from consistent exposure, patience, and active learning. Listen often, notice patterns, practice useful phrases. Pay attention to how people actually communicate. The more you listen to real English, the more familiar it becomes. One day, conversations that once sounded too fast will start feeling natural. You will recognize expressions quickly, understand the rhythm of spoken English, and communicate with much more confidence. Understanding real American English is a skill that grows step by step. Keep listening, keep practicing, and keep improving your connection with the English language. Thank you so much for watching today's lesson. and spending your valuable time with me. I hope this video helped you understand real American English more clearly and gave you practical tools to improve your listening and speaking skills. Remember, understanding native English takes time and practice. Do not worry if you do not understand everything immediately. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep exposing yourself to natural conversations. Every phrase you recognize and every conversation you understand is a step forward. If you enjoyed this lesson, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more English learning lessons designed to help you improve your fluency. Keep practicing every day, believe in your progress, and remember that small improvements create big results over time. I'll see you in the next lesson. Keep learning and keep improving your English.